Hey all, welcome to my retrospective, where I talk about a game that made an impact on me at some point in my life. Today we're talking about Godzilla Monster of Monsters for the Nintendo Entertainment System. But before we start, please remember, if you learn anything today, that was not my intention. So let me set the stage. It's 1989. I'm about 12 years old, and as such, spend most of my free time watching TV. And TV back then just happened to be a great source to watch monster movies. But the monster I fell in love with the most was Godzilla, of course. Now in my advanced years, I've come to appreciate other monsters, but Godzilla is still my top dog. And back then, he was a total badass. And what better way to live the fantasy that was Godzilla than to have a game where you played as Godzilla? Enter Godzilla Monster of Monsters for the NES. An amazing Christmas present that I had to beg my parents for, but they came through in the end. And to this day, it is still one of my favorite Godzilla games and even NES games of all time. It's not for everyone, but if you love Toho and their classic monsters, it's simply the best. Where do I start with this game? Alright, how about the start? The title screen is amazing, coming in dark, deep red and shadowy with awesome music that resembles some of the classic movie music but faster, more urgent. Then the screen flashes and you see Godzilla in all his glory, but the music, just listen. Start a new game and you are witness to a war that is broken out between Planet X and Earth. The entire solar system is the battlefield, and Earth's guardians, Godzilla and Mothra, will defend us against Planet X and their space monsters. If that sounds epic, it's because it is. Then a map shows up? Yep, a map with little images of monsters? I know Godzilla and Mothra, but what are these other two? And what's with the hexagonal grid? So it turns out this game is a mix of strategy and action. You do need to move around Godzilla and Mothra in a strategic way to get the advantage on your enemies. Godzilla can move 2 times, and Mothra can move 4 times. I think the enemies can only ever move 2 times. And the tiles represent the type of level you'll be fighting in. There can be wilderness zones, jungle and volcano zones, ruin and mecha city zones, and even subspace zones. If you stop on a tile adjacent to an enemy, you can choose to fight at the end of the levels or not. And the radar dish tile is the final destination for the level. Get both Mothra and Godzilla there, and move on to the next planet. If either Godzilla or Mothra die, but the other one is still alive, the game continues. But be careful, if you transport one monster to the next planet, but fail to get the other successfully transferred, you lose. And what planets do we have to fight through to win the war and beat Planet X? Well, we start at Earth, of course, then on to Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, and finally Planet X. We won't talk about the fact that most of those are gaseous planets. But wait, you want more? How about each new planet that you fight on adds a new enemy monster to the map? And this game has the who's who, and maybe who's not, of the Toho universe. Now the instruction booklet that came with the game gave you the lowdown, but I'm going to be honest, there's a number of monsters here I was not familiar with until much later in life. The Earth starts off with Mothra, who's a robot, and Ghidorah, which looks like a squid. I used to think this might have been the octopus from King Kong vs. Godzilla, but no. There was actually a Toho movie for all these characters. Ghidorah was from a movie called Space Amoeba, and Mothra was from the Mysterians. Neither movie I had seen yet. It gets a bit worse because then you get to Baragon. What movie was Baragon in? Well, Frankenstein vs. Baragon. I'm not making that up. Toho had some bangers back in the day. But to be fair, I did know about Baragon because he and Varan had quick cameos in Destroy All Monsters, which has always been one of my favorite Godzilla films. After Varan, though, we get into some classic Godzilla rogues gallery. Hedorah the Smog Monster, Mecha-Godzilla, Gigan, and the final boss King Ghidorah, of course. This game is a total Toho buffet, and the references don't stop at the monsters. Within the levels, there are Dagora, Manda, the Gotengo, and Matango, all represented in some form or another in the game. Strangely and sadly absent are Anguirus and Rodan, whose additions would have been awesome. In some levels, you can even find the Super X, Maser Cannons, fighter jets, and classic UFOs all mixing it up. Love was put into this game and it really shows. So how does it play? Well, I enjoyed it. It's not perfect and there could be a lot of slowdown in some places. But what makes it fun is that both Godzilla and Mothra play very differently. Mothra gets knocked to the ground by everything, and I mean everything. She only has 2 attacks, an I-beam of sorts, and her special poisonous powder special attack. But she has full mobility around the screen. Godzilla was different. He had punches, kicks, and a tail swipe if he crouched. He could attack while jumping, and of course he had his radiation blast special attack. Certain attacks could stop knockbacks from happening, so you had to learn the patterns and how to deal with different enemies. Some enemies were a cakewalk for Godzilla but dangerous to Mothra, and vice versa. It made for some tense fights, and if you came out of levels damaged but had to fight a monster, you could be in for a bad time. Both Godzilla and Mothra started at level 1, but through fighting could be leveled up individually up to level 16. So this is even an RPG of sorts. But the highlights are always the monster fights. The levels are there for risk and for gaining health back. Some of the subspace levels help grind experience to gain levels before stronger monster fights in the later planets. And each monster had strengths and weaknesses. I won't go into them all here, but for example, if you can position Mothra at just the right level, Mogra's beams go right over her and you can constantly just chip away at Mogra's health and relative safety. Each planet had a different tile focus and a bit of a different layout. And later planets became sort of a boss rush mode as more are added at each planet. Sure, you defeated Ghazora and Mogra on Earth, but now on Mars they're back and Varan has joined them. It's that kind of escalation that keeps things interesting, and couple that with maps that are more wide open, or Planet X, which is just a linear battle to the end and things can get crazy. Now, old bit, I hear you ask. What if you can't win the fight in one sitting? How do you get back to where you were? Writing down a complicated string for the password every time you wanted to take a break, or had to if your mom was yelling at you. I had a notebook full of passwords, but get one part of it wrong, and you could be out of luck and forced to repeat the work you'd done. It was not an ideal way of saving, but it was what we had back then. I truly love this game. I've beaten it many times. Some said it was too hard, but I never felt that. This game has soul and you can feel it. The ending screen is a meaningful one. My two besties looking back on the planet they just saved. Good thing they don't need oxygen. I don't know who made this game. I don't know how many copies it sold. It simply doesn't matter to me. It has always been one of my go-to NES games just to have fun, listen to the music, and bash some monsters in. I highly recommend everyone try this out if you can, especially for fans, as good Godzilla games are unfortunately a rare thing indeed. Thank you for sharing this retrospective with me. So I'll leave you with a bit of my raw Godzilla Monster of Monsters gameplay and comments over it as I take the fight to Planet X. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please sub to the channel, share it around, and drop a like. Whatever you feel like doing. And until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Hey all, I'm here to play a little bit of Godzilla Monster of Monsters. I picked a later level so you can get a little feel for what we deal with in this game. This one's got Mecha-Godzilla here as the final boss, level 21 life. And you can check out the monster's life here, 16 for Baragon, 18 for Gigan, 18 for Hedorah. I've taken care of a few others like Ghazora and Mogra, and we won't, we'll take those guys out. Alright, so we're going to go down, and I think we'll deal with, let's deal with Hedorah. We're going to go down to the right, click this, that's 2 levels, so we'll fight through 2 different tiles with Godzilla here. He's got his kick, you can punch and kick these guys. He's got his fire breath. He's got his slowdown. This was short. Look at that. All right, now we're in the jungle tile. That was like, or the ruins, however you want to say it. I'm surprised they didn't do Venus. They did Earth. Well, I guess why would you do Venus? Because Venus, you would be going backwards. They do Neptune. They do a number of planets. Most of them, not a hard surface that you're going to deal with. Alright, there's Baragon. What we're going to do instead right now, let's move Mothra into a fighting position as backup. Need her as backup. Mothra's always backup or sacrificial lamb. Mothra, I kind of wish she had a second attack to make her a little more interesting to play. Okay, these guys are the most dangerous thing. If they hit you, it's a continuous life drain. It can actually take a monster from full life to no life. So you dodge it. You dodge it. Keep to the left of the map of the screen too, like back here. It gives you the least amount of time it will be touching you. So even if you get trapped, it'll take a lot of your life, but it won't really mangle you too hardcore. So kind of baited around. Godzilla's a little harder. He's a much bigger target. It's the biggest risk to Godzilla by far. All right, now we're in the ruined city. As you get deeper into the game, which is kind of what we're playing now, because we see Mecha-Godzilla, he doesn't come until the last few levels. As we come to the end, you see a lot more of those fireballs, essentially. Those killer fireballs. This level's a little annoying. The UFOs. Everything knocks Mothra down, so the key is to not get hit at all, which is impossible. But she has her advantages. Alright, there's Gigan up top. We're going to mix it up here in a second. You know what? Well, no. See, this is where we're going to say we're not going to move. We're going to let the monsters come to us, because what that makes is it'll choose who to fight with, usually Mothra. Usually won't choose, yep. See, now this fight with Mothra is not too bad, but it is very hard to get Mothra in and use her poison powder, which is what she does the most damage with. And you can see, even if you shoot some things here, see, everything knocks her down. She's good at softening, but I can't even shoot those little smog pustules, because if I shoot them, watch, it just knocks you down for no reason. Like, why am I getting knocked down shooting a smog pustule? There's a timer to each battle, so you can basically do this, and then you're like, well, now I'm not going to move, but I am going to fight Hedorah. So Hedorah is a little weakened, just a little. Mothra's not the best against Hedorah. So here, Godzilla, you come in with your breath, you do the tail swipe. Sometimes you tank damage there. Your tail swipe gives you a bit of invulnerability, so if you get the tail swipe on the swing, those little things don't hurt you as much, and they don't knock you back, which is the most important thing. So we can see we're really doing good now, but we're not going to probably make it in the time frame we need to here. We're going to have another fight or two, but that's all right. Hedorah is one of the more annoying... Oh, do I have enough time? Oh, I just made it. All right. So we took care of... we took care of Hedorah, or Hedorah, depends on how you grew up saying it. I grew up saying Hedorah, so that's what I go with. All right, let's have a little fun with Mothra. And sure, we'll fight Baragon coming in. Why not? Why not do a little damage? Oh, go Tango. Go Tango. All right, so... Interesting thing about this battle is it shoots the killer orbs at you. There you go. And you have to kind of know where the weak points are. And then you can take it out, and then you fly forward, even though it doesn't look like you're moving because the ship's gone, and you get to the end level. Hey, Baragon. How you doing? See, Baragon's not too bad with Mothra. There's very few monsters that are this... Yeah, it'll knock you down, but you can shoot your beam below 2. And Baragon's one of those where you sometimes can find like the perfect spot to not get hit, but it's really not worth it. He doesn't hurt you too much. And again, it's a lot of softening up with Mothra. Yeah, she can take down some enemies, but her attacks are not as devastating as Godzilla's, obviously. Oh, now we're going to fight again. So our health is going to be a little regen, but not much. So this is where sometimes the strategy is not to fight an enemy initially when you come across them and let them fight you. Because if your first fight goes poorly, they come right back in and attack you. If your first fight goes poorly after, taking a delay and letting them attack you, you can then go in and basically fight a level before you refight the creature, and that gives you an opportunity to heal. That's why I was saying the boss battles, they're not bad, but. And unfortunately, that was the end of my audio capture, but I still have my video. So here, I leave you with the fight against Mecha-Godzilla. Hope you all enjoyed. I had a great time, and I'll catch you in the next one.